So next, obviously in the league was Worthing, and Jacko can't be with us tonight due to some issues at work, but I will get him on one of our podcasts and we can talk to him about his experiences of last year. So after that, Brett, over to you. You ended up going through the playoffs and winning the playoffs, going up to the National League, and a very different season to Scott.
Yeah, what can I say? Probably the best season of my life. Watching anyone, it's been absolutely fantastic. Roller coaster, just unbelievable season. It was 10 seconds away from being a perfect season. 10 seconds away from the Football League. Literally 10 seconds. So that's something that's going to live with us, unfortunately, at the end of it. But what can I say? It's literally from the start. Sort of 90 points, 95 goals in the league, FA Cup third round. I know a lot of people look down on it, but we won the sort of League Cup, the sort of National League Cup. It was great. Great night against West Ham. Beat them on penalties. Sadly, we couldn't keep those penalties.
Something else we couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't repeat the penalty shootout success that night against Rochdale when it really mattered. But it's just one of those things. I say, from the start, it was uncertain at first. I thought maybe mid-table. A lot of people tipping us for relegation, but I just thought I thought we would probably be mid-table. Lost on our opening day to Rochdale. Played really well, but lost at home. Obviously a sign of things to come as well, obviously as far as they're concerned. Sort of second game in, had a really difficult one away at Carlisle. We thought, oh God, if we're going to lose that, that's two defeats, two on games. Went 1-0 up and dominant. They went 3-1 up early in the second half, 3 goals, and we managed to get back to 3-3 and probably should have won the game, actually. And that's when I thought maybe we've got a good team here. We've got a hell of a team. I think, obviously, if we look further on, I know Scott sort of alluded to that early on, but sort of very fortunate to beat Truro on Bank Holiday Monday with a late goal. I thought they were a better team. I can't say that about many teams that played us sort of this season. Also, as well as obviously many things, we made a lot of really good signings, and that's at the start of the season. And as the season sort of went on, obviously a notable one was Zach Brunt. We signed him from Barnet. Obviously, just got them promoted. Signed sort of Reagan Booty from Barrow, he is, yeah. He was really good. Tom White from Macclesfield. And these are people that made a massive difference. Sort of centre forward. We had sort of Matt Rush, we'd originally signed sort of Luke Norris, who played in the Football League and scored goals in the Football League, but sort of Matt Rush, who joined us second half of last season, continued his form. We ended up getting about 35 goals all in, 26 in the league, which is incredible. I think it was third highest goal scorer in the National League. So anyway, yeah. So basically built on that early momentum, ended up sort of losing to Forest Green at the end of October. And that was kind of our second defeat of the season. And it kind of went from there. The first half of the season, we amassed sort of 50 points, which was unbelievable. By the early January, I think we'd won like 5 in a row. Looked really good. Played in the third round of the cup. Obviously, sort of beat sort of Crawley Town and Newport County sort of 3-0 each in the sort of first and second round of the FA Cup. So that's 2 teams in the league above, 2 teams that also happen to stay up. Then obviously got sort of well beaten at home to Burton Albion in the third round. Then afterwards, we went on a bit of a sort of downward run. After sort of beating Braintree away, we then lost 4 in a row. And that's when injuries and suspensions started to hit us. So we've got a number of players out. We had a number of good players that, that had contributed a lot in the first half of the season, either get suspended or get injured. We had players out for 2, 3, 4 months at a time. That didn't help. Then I suppose by the sort of middle of February, end of February, I think it was quite crucial. obviously we had sort of Yeovil at home and scored a late sort of winner, which was our first win in like 5 games at that point. And we came back on it, really. We started playing really well again. We were actually top going into the new year. And I mean, if you look how many points sort of Rochdale and York got at the end of it, we were actually the last team out of them, apart from those two, to be top of the league. Started in the new year, obviously in first place. Obviously, our form dropped as theirs sort of rose, and we all looked like we were going to get 3rd or 4th for quite a lot of the season. And yeah, we had a really good late run again. Obviously, we'd had the sort of National League Cup, which obviously I'll come on to because I think it's important. It was useful for us early in the season. We had quite a big squad. We had a lot of players available, and some of the players that weren't playing first team played in the National League Cup, and we did really well. We won every game. We topped our group, won 4 games. It was topped our group. Obviously, quarter-final, semi-final, and the final against West Ham. Obviously, very good West Ham team, under 21s, that were exceptional. And we sort of beat them on penalties, having got a sort of last-minute equaliser. So that was really good. I think that brought a lot of feel-good factor, I think, to the club, as well as anything else, which I think is important. And that really helped with the running because we were celebrating. We had something to celebrate and pick up a trophy and that sort of thing. We then got to to the business end of the season. Our playoff place was assured quite early. It's just a question of where we could finish. I thought we'd finish 3rd, but we lost a couple of games later on that maybe were unusual, that we didn't expect to lose. We lost to Halifax 3-2, having dominated. We got thrashed at Solihull Moors on Bank Holiday Monday, on Easter Monday. And that pretty much consigned us to 4th place. Obviously, with the playoff system the way it is, 4th place is very different from 3rd because, of course, you get the semi-final away if you get through. So, yeah, ended up sort of a really good run after the Solihull game. I think we won our next 4 league games, our final 4 league games. Then got to the playoffs. Obviously, our first game with the eliminator was against Forest Green Rovers, which is always a battle, and we ended up winning that, sort of due to Zach Brunt scoring in sort of extra time, which is fantastic. Then we had a really hard one away. We had an away semi-final at Carlisle, 12:30 kickoff, where the 300 Bournemouth fans left at sort of 3:30 in the morning to make that long journey. So that was fun. And even more fun, we ended up winning that 2-1. I mean, again in extra time, again a Zach Brunt goal. And I mean, as good as Rochdale were, and they were obviously very good, they managed to get obviously sort of lost in the last sort of minute to sort of York, having sort of lost the sort of league title at that point. They then picked themselves up for the playoffs, sort of won their semi-final against Scunthorpe, played them in the final. I was very confident in, sort of in the week building up to the final. I thought we'd win it. I really did. I'm not saying that now, but I just thought there was sort of something about us that looked like we were going there to win the game. Obviously, the way we started, first half, we were totally dominant. We should have been more than the 1-0 up. Scored the second goal, sort of 68 minutes, I think it was. And it looked like that was going to be enough. But then, you know what it's like in football. It doesn't quite go that way. It doesn't quite go the way that you think it should go. So, of course, in 78 minutes, I think it was, they pull one back. Then sort of everyone's looking at their watches, 96 minutes coming up. We're 10 seconds from the Football League. Cross comes in and a header comes off the back of our right back and goes in. So, of course, that's 2-2 and obviously totally mortified, go to extra time. I thought we might lose the extra time, but we were actually a better team. I thought we could have snatched it again. But as it happens, it went to penalties and we lost 3-1 on penalties and that was it. So all in all, a fantastic season. It really was. We really couldn't have wished for much better, but we were that close, 2-0 up with 12 minutes of normal time to go. You expect us to sort of hold on. But, unfortunately it wasn't to be. Obviously very confident about next year. Obviously we've got a lot of good players under contract. hopefully we can have another go at it next year and then just sort of bypass all these playoffs and win the league, where we get a little bit more certainty and a few less heart attacks.
I think probably all of us were, all of us that weren't you or Scott were and you were probably looking at each other, but all of us were looking on because of the get together last year and the fact that we'd made acquaintances and that. I just going into that final when I was watching it and I saw you get, I saw obviously Rochdale coming back, and I just thought that, I watched the Rochdale York game obviously a couple of weeks before that, and Rochdale scored that goal, and then their fans invade the pitch, and it gives York time to reset, right? It gives them a few minutes to reset and whatever else, and then York go and score. And I mean, when you sort of sit there and you talk about the season before where we had all of us and we said you could write a book about that season, I think you could write a book about this season as well in your league, in the National League, because
it's been fantastic.
For York and Rochdale to get the amount of points that they did, I mean, it would have been criminal in one respect if Rochdale didn't go up because of the amount of points they got over the course of the season. But then it was criminal on you because obviously with 10 seconds to go, you're playing, EFL football next year. So, but yeah, that is football, isn't it? It's
absolutely. And listen, it's hard to take. I mean, listen, it's not life and death. That's the only way of looking at it, but it's the next worst thing. Worst way it seems like. I know, sort of someone said that once, didn't they? Yeah.
Brett, is that Abdul Malik still under contract? Because he was an absolute cheat code last season and this season. I mean, watching that playoff final as well, I mean, he tore Rochdale's defence to pieces.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I think not a lot of people knew about him early in the season because obviously he'd come up from the south and been at Millwall and all that previously. He was fantastic for us all season. I mean, he had a little lull between like January and February, I think, when people worked him out, but he managed to adapt his game and he was brilliant. And yes, he is under contract. As far as I know, it's 2 more years. So the plan is to keep him, obviously, and go again. So let's hope that is going to happen. But I mean, all I would say is it would take some silly money, really, really silly money for us to sell him, I'd imagine. And hopefully, even if we do sell him for that silly money, that will be enough money to go again. Is what I would think.
Last one for me. Do you think the National League for next season? Do you think it's weaker now that York and Rochdale are out and Harrogate and Barrow have come down from League Two?
Only time will tell. I think it was weaker when we had the situation a few years ago when it was sort of Wrexham and Notts County. It was slightly weaker the next year, but then sort of a lot of other teams were weaker as well. Hopefully it will be weaker as we get stronger. I think that's the hope. I'm sort of thinking, are Barrow and Harrogate going to get 100 and something points? You'd think probably not, but you never know. Maybe another team will. Maybe a Scunthorpe or a Hartlepool will be very good all of a sudden next year. So there's always that, isn't there? There's always other teams that are going to come to the fore, and we need to be up there again. We need to be up there again, challenging. But I think, because I generally think with the next sort of full night's sleep I'm going to have is the day that we go up. Because otherwise I'll be thinking about that last 10 seconds until we actually do go up.
Oh, you've got to let it go, Brett.
I know.
James, sorry, was you trying to say something there?
Yeah, maybe Hornchurch or Worthing will get over 100 points.
I hope they do.
Listen, who knows? Who knows? Funny old game. Yeah.
I would say not with either of them, but I think in looking at both them sides, I think Hornchurch is the one for me that they could spring a surprise. I think Worthing. I mean, I'm going to say this, and it breaks my heart to say it, but I think that Worthing were probably the best team. I wouldn't say they played the best football, but I think they were the best team. When we went over there on Good Friday, we won it up.
Sorry, I actually thought they were the best team last year, or the best team that we played. I know they obviously didn't go up or didn't get in, but I just thought when we were in the south, I thought they were the best team. They were the
Yeah.
best team we came across.
Yeah. I think this year, when I say the best team, I don't think they played the best football all the time. But when we went over there 1-0, and then they just make a couple of substitutions off the bench, and all of a sudden they're 2-1 up. And I think that was the thing. They had the depth. I think obviously, James, you struggled with. We're coming to you next anyway, but you struggled with injuries, and you're going to tell us about that in a minute. So that affected the depth of your squad. But I just think for me that Worthing, they were a strong side, but I think because of that, they won't bring many new players in. I think they'll try and keep the same. And I don't know if that'll be enough. And maybe Worthing will go for that 2 or 3 years of trying to consolidate themselves in that league and then having a tilt at it. Obviously there was.
Their signing of the season was Adam Hinchwood coming back, because they started really poorly, didn't they? They started really poorly, got Hinch back in, and then he got them playing. And I agree. I think they're both them and Hornchurch will do all right. I think next season in the National League, personally, especially Worthing.
I do. I think they'll both. I think they'll both stay up comfortably. They might even be the top half.
I think Worthing will get. I think Worthing will be up and around the playoff places. To be honest, if they continue to play the same way, and Hinch doesn't get poached by another.
Well, that's the big thing, isn't it? Is Hinch staying? Because there's big talk about Southend, isn't there? But
I think they're going to get Rob Elliott. Gateshead.
Sorry,
I think they're going to go for Rob Elliott from Gateshead.
Yeah. I've heard that. Actually, I've heard that. I've heard he's leaving, and I hear that Hinch is staying.
Yeah,
Hinch is definitely staying.
I did. Yeah, I did think it would be a very strange thing for Hinch, because he went up. Obviously, he went to York, and he had that tilt up there, and then sort of it didn't really work out, and he came back to Worthing and just transformed them, didn't he? Let's be fair, he just transformed them.
You say it didn't work out. I mean, they came second last year. Well, they got 96 points, and just lost it.
But they were strict on going up, weren't they? That was
more pressure, more expectation at a club like that. I think, they love him at Worthing, don't they? So, yeah,
they do. So, James, on to you next. You obviously finished 6th in that 24-25 season. Looked to me, and probably many, that you were going to go off and win the league, especially when you got them points clear, but injuries just absolutely ruined you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna blame injuries solely, or do a sort of game by game summary of the season. I think the turning point, as mad as it sounds, is when we were 3-1 down against Farnborough at home. We ended up winning 5-3, but we lost about 4 players that afternoon with injuries. So whilst that was when we went top, but we lost McShane that day, we lost Jimmy Mewett that day, to pretty much injuries that would keep them out to the end of the season. So whilst it was a good result, and obviously it put us top and everyone was in a good mood, that kind of what had gone on kind of kiboshed things, really. And from then on, it just became a game, virtually a game every week where we would get an injury. We went to Tunbridge, nothing happening really in the game, 2-2 draw, first game of the year, and 2 players get broken toes, break bones in their feet. Sorry, Dan Pybus and Charlie Carter, so they're both out. We go to Hornchurch early in the season, and our goalkeepers get player of the season every year. Harrison Popes gets a spleen injury. Barely ever been injured ever before in his life, gets a spleen injury. So we don't have a goalkeeper for about 6 weeks. We have to have emergency loans come in. Just some of the weirdest injuries as well that sort of happen. And when you lose that many players, it's really difficult. And obviously we then had to do what we don't normally do, which is go into the loan market quite heavily and sign players halfway through the season on short-term contracts, or a couple that have signed longer-term contracts. So your continuity is then trying to allow them to bed in as well. And you just know that you can see it, you can just sense it, that they're just running out of steam. It's like having a business, isn't it, where you've got 40 employees and at any one time, 22, 23, 24 of those employees are off sick. And the rest of them have got to then do the work and then think, surely they're going to burn out, aren't they? Well, yeah, they are, and that's what happened. So, yeah, you're asking a lot of the ones that aren't injured to carry on going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Like Brett said, there's more important things in life. And I always, even when we were all those points clear, you just sense that something's going to happen. Other teams were getting other teams were getting players coming back at the right times. Torquay got players back at the right times. Worthing got players back at the right times. Hit form at the right times. So it all kind of, that those graphics where week by week you just see yourself dropping down another time past you, and even then it was difficult going into the playoffs and having that away semi-final, which would have been a 2 or 3 points accumulated over the season. If we could have just got maybe 1 or 2 more, we wouldn't have had to have gone to Torquay on a 12:30 kickoff. Wow.
And I know when you came down to us, you were struggling with injuries so much so that Mark had actually said to you, if you've got a pair of boots to anyone, bring them along. We need you. You came down to us. Obviously, I still think that was a good game of football, but obviously you were weakened, which probably gave us that opportunity to get as close as we did to you. But obviously, we'd just beaten Torquay again with. So it is what it was. What it is what it was, sort of thing, wasn't it? But you've been quite busy in the transfer market already, James.
Yeah.
Tell us about that for next season.
Yeah, so there's 4 players that have come in already, sorry. Josh Barrett, the standout one. I think George Nickatch as well is a good cat for Dover. Charles from Hampton, with a pedigree in the academy at Spurs, and Morris, a 43-year-old goalkeeper. So, who the Gillingham fans are disappointed that he left because they think he could still have done a job in the EFL next season. So, he's obviously good friends with Dean Lightwood, our goalie coach. So, it's kind of like for like replacements for the ones that we've lost. But I'm interested to see where some of our players go that have gone, like Charlie Carter, where he's going to end up, Harrison Folks, where he's going to end up, and Norville Williams as well, where he's going to end up. But there'll be some more coming in as well. There'll be some, I think, at least 2, if not 3.
I think it's clear that they always sort of, what I say is, it's clear that he always seems to find a solution that, even despite all your injuries, always there or thereabouts, aren't they? They just fall short, but they do a lot. Yeah, if you consider your injury problems, the last 2, even the sort of year before, I'm sure you'd have won the league sort of both years if you had anything like a normal injury list that any other club would have. But they always get there or thereabouts. I'm hoping sort of this year's going to be their year, But why do they get all these injuries? That might be a way to look at.
Well, I think it's so many people just say, "Oh, it's the pitch," but it wasn't the pitch at Chesham when someone landed on Norville Williams and he popped his shoulder out, and it wasn't the pitch at Tonbridge when Pybus and Carter got their broken toes, or at Hornchurch when Folks' spleen went. I think it does change sometimes what they. So I know Alfie Rutherford, when he got his injury on his ankle, he said that he had to take an extra touch because he felt like he wasn't under control of the ball and he couldn't set himself, and that's probably because of the surface. Whereas if he was playing on a grass pitch, he probably wouldn't have felt he'd needed to do that. So there are, but it's more in depth than just it's the pitch. Tom will know that Rich on his BOA updates has said to his missus, who works in data and stats and medical sort of things, to say, like, do a full statistical breakdown of who got injured, where they got injured, kind of how that injury happened, because then you can churn that out and say, okay, well, only 20%, 30% of the injuries were actually at home and caused perhaps because of the pitch, to sort of debunk that myth a little bit. But I think sometimes it's just the workloads on them as well, Brett. You know, some of them are just being asked to play probably more than they need to, going into those kind of red zones on those monitors that they wear, but looking around and you've got a couple of kids and a central defender, like to no disrespect to Tony Craig, because he's a legend, but he's like 40 and you've like just lost a striker. You're not going to be like, oh, who are we going to bring on? So, there's just very limited options as well at times, and go to games sometimes, and all the injured players there's virtually a 9-10 really good squad just sitting in the stands watching. They can't play. So it's frustrating, but that needs to stop, because that's the biggest issue. Like I say, that's the issue. If we'd have had more availability, I'd like to think that, yes, Torquay were absolutely brilliant value, but it probably could have been even more of a spectacle on that day if we'd have gone. Certainly, if there's neutrals in there, you're wanting to see two at full strength go toe to toe, rather than one kind of on that down slope and one on that upward trajectory, which they were. And that was the problem late in the season when we had those games against Worthing, Torquay, playing games like that. We were on that like dip. And I've got a sign over there that says there is always hope, but it's that hope that kills you as well, isn't it? So you go to these places and you're like so hopeful, and then like Torquay in the rain, you're like 2-0 down after 20 minutes. There's 5,000 people in the crowd baying for blood. You go, you can't get a bloody mobile signal down there, Tom. It's like being in a nuclear
terrible.
bunker.
How I do the talk update there, it's impossible. A couple from me, if you don't mind, James. Obviously, you had that pretty poor run that you lost. Was it 4 in a row going into before you went to?
Yeah.
Was it something like towards the end of the season, and then you drew with Weston on the last day?
Yeah.
How were you feeling at full time from a fan's perspective about the prospect that you knew, you know, if you beat Maidenhead, you'd have to come to us? Was that kind of, were we like the team you wanted to avoid, or were you just kind of like, Dorking Wanderers will take anyone on?
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective that it's so bloody far away as well, Tom, for a 12:30 kickoff as well, and we'd only been down there 3 weeks.
You try going Carlisle for
3 hours and then 3 games.
We'd only been down there about 3 weeks previously as well. So we had to go.
What a game that was, by the way, as well. What a game that was.
That was a good game, and we should have won that one as well. That would have been our additional point. I think
we should have won it personally.
We had a perfectly good goal disallowed, Tom. You know that.
Well, we had an offside goal at the playoff semi, so all things come round.
I think we kind of knew we probably got enough to get into the playoffs, although it was never confirmed until very late on. And then I don't think you ever really looked too far beyond, okay, it's a home playoff eliminator, which obviously we didn't have last year when we went to Boreham Wood, and Maidenhead were absolutely abysmal that night. So that was absolutely no prep whatsoever for then going down to your place, because they were just dreadful. Like, they just didn't want to be there. Like, you think, well, this is your chance here to do something special. And they were just absolute crap. So that was no prep whatsoever. But yeah, those games leading up to it were awful. Losing at home against Bath, who were already relegated. Losing at Totton, who were dreadful. All these games where we just dropped points, and it's like we just limped into the playoffs. But you knew you're like a boxer who's basically on the ropes, and you just like, we want to throw the towel in, really. If we'd have got to the final at Hornchurch, we would have given it a go. But again, it would have been like, we're absolutely out on our feet here.
Just felt like one game too many for Dorking this season.
That's exactly what it was. And there was no opportunity to rotate or anything, because we just didn't have the bodies.
And fair play to the fans who did come down on such short notice. I mean, it's personally, speaking, we were fortunate that, to sneak into third place and not play the eliminator, and then they'd have less than 72 hours. I mean, that's such poor planning from the National League's part. And I hope that's something that might get rectified next season.
Well, they got it wrong, didn't they? We should have been the half 5 kick. Yeah. So they got that wrong.
And I always think with Mark White as well, like, I think I've said this to you in the past, James, I think he looks at a club like Torquay and thinks, he'd love to have like some setup there at Dorking with the fan base there. And again, Dorking, a club that continues to grow and has, good backing online. And, a bit like us, a lot of people like to laugh at our failures and don't realise the stories that we've been on. I know you kept a few receipts for the final when we lost the final. But do you consider this season a failure then for your aspirations?
Sorry, Tommy, I missed that last bit at the end there because my dog's barking.
That's all right, mate. Do you consider, from your aspirations for the season, do you consider this season a failure in your eyes, or?
It's so hard, isn't it, when only two go up and these leagues become so tight. Other than in the north when was it Fylde ran away with it, got over 100 points or whatever it was. Whereas in the south, it just seems to be consistent, whereby it's so tough. And I mean, what does it constitute failure of a club that's only existed 26 years to not go up again? I think we have to be realistic. I have these conversations with people all the time, and everyone knows my affiliation to Dorking. It's my town. Mark's somebody that I know. I played for the team when we kicked about on a park that had dog shit on it. So to see them going down to places like Torquay and stuff, and when we were in the National League itself, I just take it in a bit of perspective as to what it is. Yeah. I know it's we've got the money and we've got sponsorship and all this sort of thing, but that kind of Sunday league bit of dog in us is still exists. And so is it a failure to have a financially sustainable club in the heart of a little sleepy market town in Surrey where the kids are wandering around wearing the shirts and stuff like that? And there's academies there with kids and all of these kind of things now. Maybe in a football in sense of the season, perhaps, but what the club does and what the club continues to do off the field and the back room and all that sort of thing is always growing. So in
quite
my
similar,
eyes,
quite similar
not a
are two clubs.
Not a failure, but if you just went, well, you should have got promoted, then it is a failure. But there's no God-given right to do that. You've got to run harder, you've got to work harder, you've got to do more than your opponent. And in those last 5 or 6 games, we didn't do that. We couldn't do that. And therefore, the tables don't lie, do they? Where you finish because of a reason, and you end up, and you lose to a better team on the day, which we did.
Quite similar are two clubs, really, aren't they, James? Two clubs who have, done a lot of stuff behind the scenes and have engaged in the community and, eyeing the prize. And I must say, I'm looking forward to next season. Like I said earlier, it's going to be very competitive. And I know games against us are going to be box office stuff. And bring it on, I say. We'll have top spot and you can have playoffs. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to start doing these with other people soon, Barry. We're going to have to get like maybe a Dagenham fan, and because they're going to be right up there, aren't they? These other clubs making moves and signing players and stuff. Soon, Tom and I in the south just going to be mid-table, nothing.
I mean, I think what you just said there, James, as well, is relative to what I've been thinking, really. And it's a season. Is it failure or is it not failure? And it's very subjective. I think, to fans that have only been coming to Dorking for 2 or 3 years, they're going to see that as a failure, right? You was up there the year before, you had your big tilt at it. But, you've been about Dorking since they were that grassroots, and I mean proper grassroots club.
Yeah.
Similar to what I've seen at Eastbourne Borough. It was a county league club when I first went and watched them, Langley Sports. And I think there's a lot to be said for clubs like that. And the disappointment was there. The disappointment was real. That there was differences of opinion where people thought that I was saying the wrong thing at times. But at the end of the day, I still honestly believe that as somebody who's been watching the club for 25, 30 years, I have a duty, well, I have a right to hold the new, the owners and the management and the CEOs, etc., to account. But also, I have a duty as a long-term fan, right? Because I remember what it was like, and I remember where we've come from. So, yeah, look, we move on. Last season's gone now for us, and and obviously we're going to talk about next season quickly in a minute. But yeah, I think that's where that whole failure, was it a failure? Was it not a failure? I think when you've been involved in for as long as you have, and as long as I've been watching, I think it gives it a completely different perspective of where we've actually come from. And obviously, that, yeah, that's that.
It's massive.
To finish off, obviously, sorry.
Right. How do you define it? What are your parameters for defining success and failure? Tommy, your club nearly went out of business. All of these kind of things. So, what is a failure? What is not a failure? And in the genuine fans with that dose of perspective, they are the ones that say, "Hold on a minute, it's not failure because we were 5 minutes away from being promoted to the National League. This is a club that nearly went out of existence. We've ended up getting a new manager who's kicked a bit of life back into us. We've got players that have come back. We've still got a club. We've still got a ground. Look how many people came to the semi-final. Yes, this result is shit, but success and failure, there's more to it than just that. You went up and then you had no money or whatever. Is that a success? Well, it's success because you got promoted, but it's not success because it's not sustainable. So you're just going to go straight back down again."
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that, there's a lot of clubs, especially in our level, because let's be fair, and like I say, not so much now because there's a lot more money flying around. But, Tom, your club was nearly out of business, and there's lots of clubs that have done that where they've tried to push that little bit too early. And that's why I've said, that teams sort of reserve the right to have a tilt in 2 or 3 years' time. And that's sometimes difficult for the younger fans to accept. Like, for instance, you look at Worthing's fans. They've got a lot of the young fans down there that are going to love the fact that they've gone up to the National League. Yeah, some of them are a pain in the, but they're going to love the fact they've gone up to the National League. But they're going to want to win every game again next season. And we all know that is not going to happen. But because they've only seen that last maybe 2 or 3 seasons, this is where sometimes that the history of a club, you need to really look at where they've come from and what's happened to them in the times. And we've all had our ups and downs, right? We've all had our periods of, but luckily for us and also for you, James, most of them have been ups, apart from coming down from the National League, which we did. But we was in there 3 years as a part-time team, and back then no one, and also the similarity between our clubs, James. Obviously, I had Mark on and on our podcast, and I'm still amazed that he came on literally in the week before you was due to play us. I mean, if anything, you'd want to be avoiding, but he didn't. He faced it, and he come on so relaxed and whatever else. But one of the things that he said was, when I spoke to him about Eastbourne Borough, and I said, "Did you look at clubs like that?" Because obviously we'd already travelled on that path. And he turned around and said he remembered exactly where he was standing when someone from the FA said to him, from the Sussex FA said to him, "This reminds me of Eastbourne Borough." And he said, "I'd like to be half as good as they had." So it shows that, and you're going to be that. There's going to be people that are going to remember that, and people are going to say to people in years to come, "Oh, this reminds me of Dorking,"
Hi guys, I'm Gary. I'm the owner of Polegate Car Sales. If you're looking to buy or sell your vehicle anywhere in the country, I am your man. We're open 7 days a week. Sunday is appointment only, but Ben works 6 till 10 any hour God sends. We look forward to seeing you soon.